Having a supportive and safe classroom where a child can learn to the best of their ability is an important step towards setting them up for a successful future. Over hundreds of years, teachers have continued to change the way in which they teach content and life skills. Classroom lessons have changed from copying notes from a chalkboard to incorporating technology and media into every class. Students are now encouraged to learn from each other, both academically and socially, instead of the teacher being the only source of knowledge. The following podcast will compare and contrast two models of safe and supportive classroom communities, taking into account the philosophical and socio-cultural contexts. One model will appreciate the personal aspect within my own educational experience, highlighting aspects of the Christian perspective and how Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders and other cultural groups are supported. Fostering a community of learners is a model developed by Brown and Capone, which promotes diversity of interests and talents in order to enrich the knowledge base of the classroom community as a whole. Students have a responsibility for their learning. Children and adults collaborate in learning endeavours. Adults are often responsible for guiding the process, and children also learn to participate in the management of their own learning. Contrast to this theory is one that was personally experienced during primary school, relating to the adult-run model. In this model, learning comes from direct teaching from adults. Silberman gives an example of this by saying, "In most classrooms, the teacher sits or stands at the front of the classroom, dispensing inert ideas to his passive students, as if they were empty vessels to be filled." From a Christian point of view, this way of teaching fails to acknowledge that God gave each person creativity and different ways of learning. Ecclesiastes 4:9 verse 12 says, "Two are better off than one, because together they can work more effectively. If one of them falls down, the other can help them up." The FLC approach embodies what the Bible says about working collaboratively, as students are encouraged to work in groups and to seek out information and share what they learn with other students. Teachers play an important role in both models, however, they are very different. The FCL approach sees the teacher become more of a facilitator of learning and encourages children to learn social skills while collaborating with peers. This gives students a higher opportunity to take charge of their own learning. This is different to the adult-run approach. Relating to my own personal experience, teachers were responsible for filling children up with knowledge, and to an extent, as students, we were not participating in learning. A specific example of this would be a history as a subject in grade 6. Every lesson, I distinctly remember opening up a workbook and copying down information the teacher would write on the board. For over 30 minutes, we would write in silence before the teacher proceeded to tell us about Australian culture. Sometimes an informational video would be viewed, however, there was never any individual inquiry or student collaboration. This approach was also not very inclusive of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children, as sensitive content regarding the First Fleet and discovery of Australia was simply presented as factual stories and lectures. There was no focus on Indigenous culture, and students were taught what they needed to know for the sake of knowledge. There was a lack of hands-on learning, learning through narrative, and environmental awareness. If by chance an Indigenous student had attended this class, a barrier for their learning would have been the fact that there was no participation in activities. This differs from Brown and Capone's model, as their theory incorporates the idea of inclusivity, participation, learning from a range of educators, like students and teacher aides, and having sufficient time to learn. An example is where students learn about a life cycle. Common knowledge is discussed as a whole group before breaking into individual research groups, focusing on a particular topic. Both individually and as a small group, students engage with the content while sharing ideas and information with each other. A member from each group then joins together to form a new jigsaw group to share information and work on a consequential task.